And now for a closer look at the latest military movements on the ground in Ukraine, we're joined in the studio by DW reporter Joel Dalroy.
Well, just a few weeks ago, Russian forces were close to encircling the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. But in recent days, the military map has been redrawn. The maps we're about to show you come from British Defence Intelligence. And here we can see the territory that was controlled by Russia up until late March. That was a month into the invasion. You can see the focus there around Kyiv. But in early April, Russia pulled back its northern groups, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. British intelligence says those forces are now being redeployed to Ukraine's east as part of a push to take full control of the Donbas region. Here's some of what's happened there in recent days. There has been intensified shelling on the city of Kyiv. Satellite images have spotted a Russian troop build-up near Izium. There's been a push towards Kramatorsk. That's the city where a missile strike killed almost 60 civilians last week. Russia also attacked an airport near Dnipro, and they are close to encircling the city of Mariupol, which would give Russia full control along the coast of the Sea of Azov. Well, now Ukraine is also concerned about possible movements in the area of Transnistria. Now, that is a breakaway region in Moldova that is aligned with Russia. And now Ukraine says it is concerned that Russian forces stationed there, along with local paramilitary, could potentially invade from the west and encircle Odessa. Another sign of the latest new strategy, the US says that Russia has appointed a new war commander, General Alexander Dvornikov. He headed the Russian forces in Syria in 2015, where he oversaw a brutal campaign of bombing cities into submission. And in the latest Ukraine invasion, he's been the district commander of the southeast region. His promotion is being seen as another sign that Russia is now making the southeast its key target instead of Kyiv. But how effective will this new strategy be? Well, according to some US analysts, Russia's combat capability is being greatly exaggerated. Many of its units are badly damaged and are being patched together without much training. Russia is also believed to be trying to recruit hundreds of thousands of new soldiers, a sign that, despite their setbacks, they are ready for a protracted war.
DW reporter Joel Dalroy there analysing the situation on the ground. Now, with Russian President Putin vowing to continue operations until all his aims are met, I asked military analyst Frank Ledwidge what would be considered a success at this stage of the war.
I would say that success by Putin's own definition has already failed to happen, the elimination of the Ukrainian state and government. But of course, that's different from rhetorical success, and that too has been somewhat changeable. The most recent objective that is declared is the liberation of the Donbas area, where the fighting is taking place now and will continue to intensify with that objective in mind, I think.
Can we expect a major shift in strategy here?
So now that they have outlined their rhetorical and political objective and aligned it with the military one, they've put together a command structure to try and achieve that with a new general, Dvornikov. Actually, he's an old general. He was commanding that region before, and a new command staff to unite the army, as it were, behind one objective. And what we're going to see now is Russia trying to surround and annihilate Russian forces in what are called salients or bulges, leveraging their advantage in artillery and air power. Now, they did that in the past quite successfully in 2015 on a much smaller scale than they're anticipating doing that now against the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians have learned a lot from that. And what the Ukrainians can do and what the Russians have demonstrated they really can't is this kind of war of maneuver. One of your contributors earlier talked about if the Russians have sorted their logistics or if the Russians have organized their planning capabilities and so forth, they may have an opportunity to do that. I don't think they have. I think the Russian army's problems are endemic. They are serious. They revolve around deep corruption, a lack of training, and a complete inability so far demonstrated to combine air power, artillery power, and indeed other ground forces, as your previous commentator thought they should be able to do. They haven't demonstrated that so far, the Russians.
Now, with what you've just mentioned, fears are, of course, growing that Russia could try to escalate and use chemical weapons in Ukraine. There were reports still unconfirmed. Would that be a red line for the West and for NATO?
Yes, that's interesting. Red lines, I think, as a language, are probably not going to be used because they have a rather unfortunate history. The last time chemical weapons were used in Syria, where red lines were crossed and ignored, at least for a couple of years. But I suspect messaging is taking place between diplomats and between intelligence services quietly. That's sort of track two. And warnings are being given to the Russians that if this happens, this will be treated in a very different way than the other war crimes they've been liberally committing over the last 6 weeks or so. And I think clear messaging will have been given. Chemical weapons, however, offers something of an opportunity militarily for the Russians. Their doctrine mandates it in a breakthrough operation, which is exactly what they're going to be doing over the next few weeks, trying to break through Ukrainian lines. And the more chemical weapons is one option. The other is tactical nuclear weapons, which we can probably put aside for the moment. There's a very real possibility that can happen. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, though, because there's a mixed history of chemical weapons in that level of warfare. Last time they were used was in the Iran-Iraq war, and whilst it achieved a breakthrough, it really did strike back at the Iraqis who used it first.
Military analyst Frank Ledwidge there speaking to us a little earlier.